Before I could start painting the interior, there were a couple of parts that needed to be glued together. Also, some of the chassis components needed to be glued together, as the Nismo version has a different exhaust tip, so that needed to be glued on as well. I like to do this pre-paint when I can, so that I don't necessarily ruin the paint after when trying to glue things on. The seats in this car have two big holes in the headrests, and in the kit they are molded shut. So I took out a couple of drill bits and some knives and cut that out to make it a hole. So you could try to fit some seat belts through it. I'm not going to do it, as I'm going to keep this build simple and just move along, as you're not really going to see much of the interior anyway. This was just a nice touch that was easily addable and makes a world of difference when you do look inside the interior. With all the parts and pieces prepped and ready, I moved on to applying a couple of coats of primer to every single part, and then moved on to applying the first colors. Now that the parts are in primer, I could move on to doing the main interior color, which will be red as a contrasting piece. And since it's a lot harder to paint red over black, I painted the red pieces first, then masked those off later on to paint the rest black. Contrasting red pieces all finished up, I let that dry for about an hour before masking it off, and then moving on to painting the rest of the interior in flat black to simulate a leather look. black parts are now dry, so I could remove the masking to reveal the red pieces. Give the interior just that little bit more detail, I did flock it on the rear panel and on the floor panels. I'm not going to show the entire process of the whole thing, as I have shown it a lot of times before in other build videos. Now, if you do want me to show you a video of me doing this, let me know in the comments. If there's enough people that want to see a how-to on the flocking, I will do another. If you don't, but you still want to see it, just go through my channel. There's a lot of videos in which I show how this flocking process works. The steering wheel also needed to be red on a couple of pieces and black on others. Now, it was easier to just take out the brush and some fillet flat black and paint the inserts by myself than to mask it all off and not have it nice and tidy. So I just painted it red and then added the black later on with a brush. On the dashboard, I applied a couple of silver spots to just simulate the real look from the stock interior and not have it look all black and plain boring. The seatbelt holes I cut in the beginning of the video are now getting some silver just to give them a highlight, again like the real stock interior has. With all of the parts and pieces now detailed and finished, I applied a couple of decals and logos in the interior and then I glued everything together.